I knew this would be complex. Had I said the other day in a discussion I was having with a group of friends that in my lifetime I have found the most interesting conversations amongst people of pristine and prestigious education, they would have said, yeah, yeah. The fact that I said the opposite, that I have not found interesting conversations among that community, and or that I have found, by and large, the wealthy people that I have encountered to be of zero originality, not really very nice. That's been my experience. Now, we might create our experience, but this has gone on for nearly 70 years. And I'm sure that at some point I wasn't as bolshy, to use an English term, as I am today. So I wouldn't have projected something. I wouldn't have been renowned for something that they would have found, they would have been defensive about when encountering me. This is just purely on experience of dealing with those kinds of people. And it is totally subjective. In other words, what I value in another human being, I can enumerate what those qualities are. I have not found to date in either of those communities, in the highly educated or very wealthy communities. Now, the fact that I said that that's been my experience. The problem with that, of course, is that somebody will say, "No, I know some really nice rich people, and I have wonderful conversations with Harvard, professors and stuff." And I go, absolutely fine. That's fine to me. I've not had those experiences. When I do have those experiences, and I promise you that I'm not shutting myself off from the possibility of those experiences, I'll let you know. But so it's not a criticism of you. Don't take it as a criticism of you, which you are doing. Don't take it that way, and I'll not take it the other way either. I'm just talking about my experience and my particular metabolism, my psychological makeup, right? This is my issue with any of these things that are going on right now in the world that I'm commenting on. I have tried to insist that I'm commenting on it from a very particular place, from within myself. I'm exploring it within myself. That's all I'm doing. And I suggest that for any of us, that is as complicated a process. What I encounter time and time again is people taking shortcuts, saying, well, I'm on this side or I'm on that side. And you listen to them and you go, no, I understand why you're doing that. To deal with any of these things that are going on right now, elsewhere in the world, and in Los Angeles, they're going on all over the place. Not in my house, but it's around in my world. The things that are going on. To encounter that, I think naturally, because of a certain, religious and philosophical tradition, Western civilization, what we do with that is we say that side is bad. That's a bad thing. Say Islam to choose but one. And these they change places like musical chairs at various times in history. It'll be one or the other will be demonized, and we know who was demonized for the first 2,000 years since BC. The point being that if I'm not defending my tribal position, if I'm not defending my quote my people, which I'm not, I can't. I'm not interested in doing that. If I am, and in other words, I'm defending myself by defending my people, because I define myself as a member of that tribe, and therefore that tribe, for me to be good, that tribe has to be good. I understand that psychologically. I think it's a shortcut. Anyway, so I don't know particularly why I don't feel like these other people. Why don't I seek that community? And it's not because of any, I'm not an individualist and courageous and all that sort of stuff. It's just, it has no appeal for me. But it is important for me to understand why the position for which I'm commenting, where it comes from. And I suppose that it either comes from a sort of Freudian psychological process, that you're born and you have your youth and then you go on and you become indoctrinated. We all do in some way. We have educations and all those sorts of things that go on all the time, or should do. And then we come up with a personality at a certain age that copes, an adulthood that copes with the various things that are thrown at us, and we get angry about certain kinds of things, and then we don't get angry about other things. That's who we are. Either that's a process of attrition, something that is predictable. So you can say that somebody who's brought up in a WASP household, let's say, or in a Jewish household, or whatever it is, or in a black household in America, will have these sorts of views, and we usually proceed from that basis. And then, of course, there is the one that is purely of imagination. So somebody's complaining about the great historian Roy Casagrande, who he talks about history in a way that is not exactly pro Western civilization. It's not pro Northern European civilization. And then they will say, well, he's just plain wrong on this and that. How do you know? How can he be wrong on something that happened in the 14th century? He can have an opinion on it, and you can criticize him for having an opinion, but you can have no more than an opinion on it because you were not there. In other words, the conclusions that you're drawing about what happened in the court of, what's his name, in Isabella in 1492, before they sent Columbus off and all that sort of stuff, you can speculate on that, but that's all you're doing, and your speculation is going to be subject to your subjective take. And if you want to, for instance, glorify the experiment that is the United States of America, if you want to make that what religious people tend to do, is to say that this is a good thing, this is a good story, these are the good people, those are the bad people, then you will look at that in a certain way. You might, and then I might look at it in another way. I do think that the colonialism that began with 1492, roughly, is one of the great epochs of history that has been inordinately destructive, and has therefore needed a civilization to justify, to turn it around and turn it into a virtue. And I think that is a terrible, terrible thing. That's my subjective opinion, because I don't find anything in that civilization that I want to salvage. It's not only that I speak the language of participants in colonialism, that I look like, that I'm genetically connected to those people, etc., etc., etc. I literally find nothing useful in it. It doesn't answer any of my questions. It doesn't satisfy any of my needs. It is vacant to me. So, and it's from that position, and I'm happy. I'm happy to speculate on why that happened, why I didn't stay in the club, because that's what it is. If you look at, in other words, I grew up in that civilization without question. I did, and I've been in it since day one, by and large. But my response to it has been, I have lived outside of it. That which is valuable to me is not in it. It's tangential. Yeah.